Dip here with On the Chain. Welcome everybody to another On the Chain podcast. Jeff on special assignment. You're probably asking where? Think of the Himalayas. Think of the badass Yetis. You're getting closer, closer. He's off on special assignment tonight. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things. Well, what will they be exactly? Well, first of all, Ripple strikes back, right? At who? Who else? The SEC. Then Codius. Gosh, we thought Codius was dead and buried. What is Codius exactly? We are going to take a quick look at that. And what else do we have on there? Well, Coinbase. Coinbase was approved for something pretty big. You know why? Because there was actually a place to register. And you know what they did? They went and registered. Not like a fake place where you can't register, like Gary Gensler says, come on, just come on in, register. They actually did register, and they got approval, and that's pretty big. That's just a couple of the stories we have. And, of course, we got some great jokes from David Schwartz. You guys ready to kick this off? Of course you are. Let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
Yeah, go ahead and drop where you guys are coming in from. Love to hear any feedback in the comments, in the chat. But go ahead and tell me exactly where you're coming in from. Where are you coming in from today? What part of the world? What city? What's your city famous for? If you'd rather not say, I get it. Sometimes you're from a city that's famous for the wrong thing, or maybe not so nice of a thing. But I'd like to hear what that looks like there. So everybody's piling in here. Good to see everybody. I want to jump right into it and kind of cut to the chase here and some of the big news. But here we go. So Stu Alderati, general counsel for Ripple, posted this up just a couple hours ago. What was this, 3 hours ago? And basically, Jimmy Fallon posted this, first of all, which said, hey, Ripple files its opposition to the SEC's anticipated motion to leave to file for an interlocutory appeal. We've talked about this for, I guess, a couple of weeks now, that this was coming. So if you want to read this, if you really want to go to sleep at night and you're looking for like some sort of a sleep aid, yeah, you could take some cherry juice, some sour cherry juice. There's some other sleep enhancers. There's, of course, medication out there for that. Or you can just try to get through this, right? You read when you get to the second paragraph, you'll read it 3 times. Your eyes are feeling a little sleepier. You're a little sleepier. Next thing you're out. We're not going to read it. We're just going to summarize it. But anyway, this is what they filed. Blah, blah, blah. Defendant Triple Labs and Chris Larson and Bradley, Garlinghouse and blah, 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 right? It's good stuff because they're hitting every single point. It's a little too heavy for tonight. But anyway, it's their comeback. And then Stu already put this out saying, we oppose the SEC's request for an interlocutory appeal. There's no extraordinary circumstance here that would justify departing from the rule requiring all issues as to all parties to be resolved on appeal. So right there you have it. Look at that. We have somebody coming in from Connecticut. Who knew? Jeff's from Connecticut. Good for him. And we also have Schenectady, Blackjack Shack. There you go. And got some other commentary here. Of course, Brad Garlinghouse wanted to chime in on this. Reminder, the request for appeal, even if it is granted, doesn't change the fact that XRP is not a security. Well, let me say that again, because next time I say it, I want you to realize that this is the only digital asset aside from Bitcoin that actually has clarity, right? It's legal. It's not a security. It's the only one other than Bitcoin. Reminder, the request for appeal, even if it's granted, does not change the fact that XRP still not a security. That's not up for debate or trial. But the SEC continues to claim that he's referring to Chris Larson, and I, Brad Garlinghouse, acted recklessly in believing that the XRP is not a security. That's utter nonsense. So he's having a little fun with this, saying that if XRP has already been granted, it's already been announced that it's not a security, he's having a little fun here with the words, but he's like, how could they have acted recklessly in believing that XRP is not a security? Have a little fun there. But the point is made because XRP was ruled not a security. So now they're going to allege that they were reckless, right? They were they were dangerous. They were acting crazy. They were going crazy town. It's so funny that they just don't know when to stop. Like, the first rule of holes, when you're in one, stop digging. The SEC's like hundreds of feet underground right now. They just don't know the first rule of holes. They've been digging one for themselves for a long time here. But this is just really, you don't have to know a lot about law, but if you deem XRP to not be a security, how could you say that both Chris Larson and Brad Garlinghouse acted recklessly? And the fact that XRP is not a security, utter nonsense. He's being nice about it. It's like, this is crazy town, right? It's utter nonsense for sure. Goes on to say that the judge's July 13th ruling said the SEC would be put to their proofs at trial regarding their claim against Chris and me. We look forward to proving the SEC wrong as a matter of fact and law again. So that is that's a little bit of fun he's having right there, but it's so true that, honestly, with the SEC, I don't even know anymore. If you guys saw tonight's thumbnail, I had a little bit of fun with that. We actually have a t-shirt in the merch shop. Ripple, the SEC wars, Ripple strikes back. You guys can buy that at onthechain.shop. But anyway, I wanted to get to this because it's kind of silly. But again, I think sometimes when you ask for it, you're going to get it. And you asked for it the first time. What did you get? XRP is not a security. Then we had Ali Tarrant posted this up here. So I think I got these backwards here. Yeah, I do. So she talks about the Ripple filed its response to the SEC interlocutory appeal. The company, Brad Garlinghouse, Chris Larson, opposed the appeal on the following grounds. The court's order does not involve a controlling question of law. The SEC cannot show a substantial ground for difference of opinion. And 3, an immediate appeal will not advance the termination of this litigation. And again, she points to the letter below. There's the full letter. And then she commented on this, saying that too long, if you didn't want to read it, regarding the Rakoff v. Torres ruling, otherwise known as the intra-district split, this is where you had Rakoff coming out and flipping out the entire crypto community where everybody is panicking. Oh my gosh. And meanwhile, that had nothing to do with XRP not being a security, but Rakoff, ruling in another case in the Southern District of New York. Ripple distinguishes the way which is programmatic sales differ from those from Terraform Labs, citing that the SEC's allegations and the company's founders promised rates of returns between 19 and 20%. Very, very different by comparison. Also, on the coin owners, they promised those returns at 19 to 20% on the coin owners' initial investment and then embarked on a public campaign to encourage both retail and institutional investors to buy their crypto assets. Doesn't sound like much going on there, right? Oops, a little bit different than what happened in the Ripple case. And Ripple points out that the evidence at summary judgment concluded that Ripple made no promises or offers to purchasers in programmatic sales, hence not satisfying the investment contract prong of the Howey test, which is what a lot of what the SEC argued. Ripple also points out that Judge Rakoff agreed with Torres that sales of digital assets alone are not inherently digital or securities offerings. And I want to really kind of settle in on this one here too, because this one here is something we knew from the beginning. John Deaton drove this point home, as did a bunch of others. I bet you know this thing. In the sales of the digital assets alone, this is what John Deaton famously said, that no matter what, the chinchillas, the whiskey, the whatever it was not inherently the security. It had to do with the scheme, the way it was packaged up. And in this case, very specifically, it did not tick that prong of the Howey test with the investment contract. And so the sales of those digital assets alone will never be the securities offering. Okay. So again, even if you look at what we talked a little bit about here, that 19 to 20%, that's what makes it the security, right? It was the rate of, promising a rate of return. That's a no-no. And again, that's going to get you the Howey test thing all day long. Ripple believes it makes much more sense to ask for a regular appeal at the end of the court proceedings that would permit a single round of appellate review on a complete record instead of piecemeal. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Again, I mean, for most investors, retail investors, and XRP, it doesn't really bother us. This is fun to watch, keep an eye out. But the absurdity of the SEC and like, what are you fighting for? It's like, you know, if you've ever gotten like a bar fight, I'm not saying I have, but maybe a couple of them. But you know, when somebody's on the ground and they're like, they can barely walk or they got their face punched in and they get up and they're so injured and they still want to fight. It's like, just go home. Enough. Just walk away. You got your ass kicked. You got your ass handed to you. It's time to go and put your, you know, hang your head, walk away in shame, go find something else, find somebody else to pick on, right? This is kind of how things have happened from time to time. And the SEC is just mind-boggling to me. Then we had this one, Scott Chamberlain, he commented on Jimmy Filan's post for the Ripple filing its opposition to the SEC's file for leave for interlocutory appeal. He said, in short, I like this a lot. In short, the SEC won on the law and lost on the facts. They shouldn't be allowed to appeal the law that they won on, so it can be adjusted to the facts they lost on. This will just raise new legal issues, lead to further appeal points, and complicate everything. They should wait until it's over, and everyone can appeal whatever. But again, I don't think this ends really well for the SEC. When it comes down to it in the end, I just don't think that it's going to go well. Look at this, Zachariah, words of wisdom right there. Smash that like. Please go ahead and do it. Rye guys in the house. We've got Hans Loaded in here, Jim D, El Hefe. Good to see everybody in here. Huffy's laughing. That's good for that. New Hampshire's in the house as well. Wow, we got a lot coming in from the Northeast. That is really fantastic to see. I really love the Northeast. It can be problematic at times, but I love, it's just a great place, a great place. I grew up in New York and now have been living in Florida for quite a long time now. And sometimes I miss some of the things from up north. You always miss where you grew up at some point, right? There's some special food, there's a special restaurant, the people, whatever it might be. There's always something. So let's go to this. Jeremy Hogan also chimed in on this. He said, Ripple makes solid arguments why the appeal shouldn't be allowed, but if it is allowed, Ripple's going to get its contractual obligations argument in front of the second DCA, and that will be something. I'm talking amicus briefs raining from the heavens. This is funny. So, yeah, if it gets those contractual obligations in front of the second DCA, he's like, that would be something. It will be raining amicus briefs, filing from everywhere. And again, the SEC, they seem like that hapless chump that got his ass handed to him in a bar fight and just is wobbling around, still wanting to fight, and just take this finger and push him over. That's kind of where we're at this point. It kind of seems that way a little bit. And then we've got this one. This was kind of interesting right here. This is from Brooke Masters, wrote a really good piece here. And this is from John Deaton's Crypto Law. Appealing Torah's decision could create an opening for the conservative Supreme Court majority, which is already talking about regulatory overreach. Yeah, the fair doc, right? The is it the something? What I can't think of right now. But yeah, the regulatory overreach to crimp the SEC's authority on a wider range of issues. But this is what happens. You want to keep fighting? Okay, keep fighting. It's not going to end well for you. It doesn't turn out to be what you expected it to be. And then we have, this is the actual article itself. It's a really good read. I'd love to go through it with you, but it's a pretty long one. And I don't know if we have to jump through the entire thing, but it says the headline here, when tackling crypto, the SEC should be wary of overreach. Now, let me ask you a question. Honestly, do you think the SEC is one iota of concern that they are overreaching? Or do you think that Gary Gensler and the enforcement officer and everybody, I wouldn't say everybody at the SEC, because I probably feel like there's some really great people there, which hang their head because it brought a lot of shame and embarrassment to them. But I have a feeling that they're actually there's some probably good people over there. I would imagine they are. You can't say the whole lot is bad, trying to do the right thing and overshadowed by this overreach. I honestly don't think for 1 minute that they're thinking, you know what? I wonder if we're just going a little bit overboard here. I wonder if we're just I mean, maybe we're just reaching just a little too far. I don't think that ever crosses their mind. I don't think it ever crosses their mind one bit. And it says, despite, here, let me make this a little bit bigger here. It says, despite laudable investor protection aims, there are risks to its aggressive approach. Yeah, and she just basically goes through this whole entire article and kind of details exactly where the SEC's made some missteps along the way, like this one right here. Natural to want to sweep the products of ambit of the SEC, the U.S.'s best financial regulator, and one charge specifically with investor protection, but the laws around this are far from clear, and the consequences of overreach could be devastating for efforts to keep American markets fair and stable. And there's a lot of good stuff that's detailed. Here's the rub. Most of these protections and the SEC's policing power only apply when customers are investing in securities, stocks and bonds explicitly named in the original 1933 federal law, while commodities, wine, baseball cards, they clearly don't count. The key standard for more esoteric investment contract, known as the Howey test, for a nearly 80-year Supreme Court case involving Florida citrus groves, it says that a security involves a promise by the promoters to do something specific to generate profits for the investors. She just goes through and just destroys the SEC on so many things. And I'm thinking, if you're the SEC, not that you're watching this, but let's suppose you're out there reading, you come across a story and you're like, geez, Brooke, I'm making some pretty good points here. What should we do? Let's file more lawsuits. Why not? We're on the government dole. We're a regulator. We got to make a splash. We got to get our stuff. We have to be known. And what they're going to be known for, and something Jeff and I said a lot during this 2.5 years when this SEC v. Ripple thing was going on, is that it doesn't end well for the SEC. It turns out it wasn't, but they're not even shamed by it. I mean, they just keep going. And so they're going to say that Chris Larson and Brad Garlinghouse were, evil when it came to, they were dangerous. They were doing all kinds of stuff. It's preposterous. It's preposterous. I want to go jump in the comments for a section here. What do we have here? What's going on in the comments here? Let's see. So Oskar says, when you're fighting evil crypto bros, you can't overreach. No, that's right. It's like, it always depends on who it is, right? There's always a 2-tiered, maybe even a 3 or 4-tier justice system, where the closer you are to the top and the elites, it's a different system for you. But let's suppose something happens to you on any given day. It's, well, I'm sorry, lock them up, throw away the key. Nobody knows, nobody cares, right? Underreach, on the other hand, correct, and Mundo, very good one. Good one, Oskar, on that as well. Let's see, Mercy, I'm not even going to read that. Well, maybe I will. Mercy Coco wants to know, stop dreaming, XRP's dead. Mark Smithson coming back with, thank you, Mercy. Does your mommy know you play with laptops? Man, whoa, not even. There we go. They're all over it in there, yeah. Hans Loda, we have a new crypto expert in the comments. Well, you guys are mods. You guys know what to do. I would only if it gets out of hand, but I enjoy the free speech, and that's fine. Come in here, say what you want to say, right? I mean, this is what free speech is all about. You don't have to love everything. You don't even have to like some things. But I don't usually head out the podcasts that, well, sometimes I do. Sometimes I watch all kinds of weird stuff. I can tell you that for a fact. What do we have next? So the other story that I talked about, if you guys remember Codius, you remember that? If you guys have been around the space a while, you'd be like, Codius sounds familiar. What the hell is Codius? Well, Codius is let me put this full screen here. Codius is, here we go. I was surprised the website's still up. It's Codius.org, O-R-G. And Codius is their logo, where smart programs live. Let me see if can I make this bigger? There we go. Codius is an open hosting protocol. It makes it very easy to upload a program, whether you want to run on hosts or thousands. It's a program load of decentralized apps. And really what it was supposed to do, something that David Schwartz has talked a lot about, was supposed to bring smart contracts to the XRPL. And this was, I don't even know when this was put up. It's supposed to have been only 2015, 2014. It was a long time ago. Don't quote me on everyone will be in the comments. No, Chip, you had the date wrong. I don't know when it was. It was a while ago. Let's put it that way. Peer-to-peer hosting, decentralized apps, right? But it's great to have, we have decentralized coins or currencies like Bitcoin, but right now you have to choose between centralized, user-friendly, decentralized, annoying, or decentralized annoying wallets. With Codius, you get the full spectrum of decentralization. Learn more, features, fast, built-in payments, connected, no code restrictions, and blah, blah, blah. I wonder if we go to the blog. Does it even work in the blog? No. I don't see that it. No, it looks like I don't even think they had a blog. I think they had an intention of having a blog. I can't get the GitHub unless it's broken. I don't know. Looks like there's something there. Hang on. Oh, we got something. All right. So the last one put up here was Nathan Lee was in July 30th, 2018. Codius 1.2 upgrading WebSocket support. And I guess we probably could go back in the blog to see how long it's been there. All right, 2018, there it is. Forget about 2014, 15. What was I talking about? Anyway, at least the last known date that a blog post was put up was June 6th in 2018. Yeah, that's roughly 5 years ago. I'm not a mathematician, but there you go. There you have it. And so Panos put out a phenomenal, because we heard a lot of conversations coming back around about this. We heard David Schwartz talking about it recently. But Panos put this out, a beautiful thread. Codius could be one of the biggest and most important developments in the industry, and it would give a whole new meaning to smart contracts. But most people aren't aware of what Codius is and how it works. So time for a thread. This isn't just any thread. This is a Panos thread. Badass Panos. Here we go. And this, what he was commenting on, this David Schwartz tweet, he says, I'm still trying to revive it because somebody asked him about it. The technological pieces were missing, now exist, and I think there's some demonstrated market needs that it can address. I wish I could say more, but it's probably more than I should be sharing. And this was just a couple of days ago that he said that. And this was sort of a back and forth in a long thread. But if he's saying I probably said more than I meant to, it probably means to me that something's in process here, right? And Panos putting out this thread. So when Just Moon, that's Stefan Thomas, joined Ripple, one of his first projects was to build a smart contract system for the XRP ledger. And so by April of 2013, a prototype was ready. And here it is right here, contracts at Ripple runtime, blah, blah, blah. This was committed up to committed code on April 5th in 2013. Okay, so I was partially right. It does go back to 2013. This was back in April. Over on GitHub there. And then it said a few months later, there was a young Bitcoin developer that visited San Francisco and was a Ripple intern for a few weeks staying at Stefan's house. His name was Vitalik Buterin, and the conversations around Codius led him to incorporate its key value data structure into Ethereum. So if you think about it, Ethereum and the whole smart contracts platform, you go out first to market. You don't have to be great. You don't have to be best. You just have to be first. And so that first mover advantage certainly had a lot to do with putting Ethereum on the map. And again, it took them a long time to get, even till this day, to get Ethereum where they wanted. But again, it wasn't about that. It was about being first to market and that first mover advantage. And so by the end of 2013, there was a new design for smart contracts. Codius worked differently than smart contracts in Ethereum. The contracts run on independent hosts without an underlying blockchain, similar to traditional hosting. And then here's the white paper. So it goes back to 2013. So Codius was constructed not as an additional part of the one blockchain network, but as a completely separate element that stands on its own. In addition, since it's not tied to any specific cryptocurrency, it can settle with any currency, including fiat. And that sounds familiar, right? The XRPL, interoperability, doesn't matter if it's fiat, doesn't matter if it's a digital asset. So this is kind of interesting. And it's kind of weird to know and wonder what would have happened, right? Just curious, like, how would that have gone down if, for example, we would have seen Ripple be first with smart contracts? Would it have changed anything? Would it have shifted? Would there have been, let's suppose they were first to market and then everybody started building around the Ripple, I'd say the XRP ecostructure. So it's interesting. What if they beat in the market by a year or even a year and a half? It didn't go down that way, but it's interesting to think about. Another major difference is that Codius can keep private keys while Ethereum cannot. That means Codius can, for example, control a Bitcoin wallet while an Ethereum contract cannot. So Codius uses another concept called smart oracles. Smart oracles, anything that can be asked a question and a non-biased answer is returning. One example could be asking the Bitcoin network if a certain transaction happened. Smart contracts that run on Codius can hold assets in one or multiple blockchains, such as Bitcoin and XRP. They can collect information from any source connected to the internet. They can be written in standard programming languages. So you kind of just see that there was a lot of advantages when Codius was thinking about this in a much bigger way. But again, it didn't matter so much because you had Ethereum beat them to market. But a lot of that had to do with the fact that we're going to see and talk a little bit more about was the fact that it wasn't quite ready. It wasn't ready. There wasn't a lot of the tech that we have today. And David Schwartz basically commented on that, saying, well, back then we wanted to do this and do that and all these things, but the technology wasn't quite there. And so that's why I think reviving Codius right now is going to be really key. Codius is the application layer for the decentralized web. Programs running on Codius can interact with one another, as well as distributed databases such as the XRP ledger and Bitcoin and all their other web services and APIs. So on the left, if you look here, you've got the standard software architecture, which which is your user interface, your application logic and database. And then on Codius, you got on the right, which is your client smart programs and your ledger / blockchain. So a little bit update on the traditional. So Codius is basically an open hosting protocol and brings a host of its own features to the table, offering flexibility in distribution and development. With Interledger, Codius adds flexibility in payments to its feature suite. And then he's basically commenting on David Schwartz's tweet here. It sounds like you have it right. One of the great cases for Codius is gateways between blockchains, bridging ILP to blockchains and providing exchange between all assets reaching through the Interledger protocol. So that right there in itself, pretty interesting. It's kind of wild to think about how this could have turned out. But again, the tech wasn't there, and that's why when you saw Ethereum launch, it was just compared to what we're going to see, it's pretty basic on the smart contract, especially when we talk about the keys and what it can control. It's got some basic functionality. And so another benefit of Codius is that it gives the choice of programming language back to the user. So rather than having to write software in some strange, multi-purpose languages like Solidity, developers can write contracts in any common language. And I think this would be a big boon to devs out there who don't want to sit there and take on a new language, but again, can write it. They want to write it in Python, whatever language they want to write it in, they can. And it's not exclusive to, no, it's got to be Solidity, which, again, isolates Codius from, let's say, like an Ethereum type of a smart contract. And a Codius contract can run on an unlimited number of hosts, giving a greater decentralization than any existing blockchain can offer, or it could run on a single host. Each developer can choose the right trade-off between cost and security for their application. But unfortunately, Codius was a victim of bad timing, lack of focus. I still believe it has huge potential, says Panos. I would like to see Joel Katz, better known as David Schwartz, leaving Ripple to fully concentrate on building and reviving Codius. That's interesting, especially what we heard from David Schwartz. David says, unfortunately, for now, it's a victim of the fact that Ripple can't do everything we might want to do. He did put this tweet out in 2020. If I wasn't working at Ripple, I'd build a business around Codius. Now that Codius has the means, I wonder if that might be something we might see in the future, if this is just a foreshadowing. Codius' approach to smart contracts is unique, and because it's blockchain agnostic, it frees developers from being locked in any specific chain, which is the ultimate holy grail for the next generation of financial and business apps, a solution that could benefit from the whole industry. Don't you think it's pretty interesting that here we are, we're just a little over 4 weeks and a couple of days from Judge Torres's, decision. XRP is not a security. And what do we find out is it seems that there's so much going on right now. There's so much momentum building. And I have a feeling that it would be silly not to revive Codius, especially given where we are in the ecosystem as a whole. I just think it would be odd And honestly, it seems weird. Like Codius has got to be revived. And what's the timing on that? I don't know. But again, it does so much. This interoperability, the fact that you don't have to devs don't have to worry about a particular language. They don't have to develop. They don't have to write in any specific type of language like Solidity. They can do whatever they want. I think there's a lot of options here. And it says since it can be any chain, it's the holy grail for the next generation of financial business app solution that could benefit the whole industry. So how do hooks, Evernote, and Flare networks compare? Well, hooks as an on-chain custom code to influence the behavior and flow of transactions. Evernote is a decentralized host network providing consensus as a service with a native token as a payment and currency. And Flare is an EVM-based L1 network, EVM being Ethereum virtual machine. So it's interesting to see this. What are your thoughts on this? Curious to see what you guys think about this. Mr. Huber says he got 60 likes from me. I don't know what he's talking about here. Some other stuff. Yeah, there we go. All right. Fantastic. We're moving right through it today. What do we have going on what's going on in the old chatters? Okay, so Jim D says the problem with all this decentralized XRPL extensions add-ons is the cross-competing smart contract approaches. Codius, Evernote, Flare. We need an XRPL software guru to explain it all. Well, I think that last one was pretty. The thing is that they do these niche type of things, but there's not an all-encompassing one. I feel like Codius, given what we have today technology-wise, I feel like Codius would be sort of that jack of all trades, right, and master of all. So I think it would certainly jump up there. But that's a really good point you make right there. Better to have side chains. Better to have it not. I like that they're keeping the XRPL clean. I never wanted it to be. A lot of what happens with any program, or like if you go to legacy stuff, they try to make it better. The code gets bloated. It turns into just garbage after a while. So you want to keep it clean. Its original intention. It's one of the things that I give David Schwartz an incredible amount of. What's the word I'm looking for? I just commend the fact that he was a stand for the XRPL doing what it does, not trying to add this thing and that thing, and it's all done in a better way through a side chain, but it's not sitting on the XRPL itself. The same goes for Evernote. Same thing for Flare. Flare is a little bit of a different animal, really, of what it's trying to do. But again, that interoperability between chains and having that EVM, which means you can plug into that Ethereum virtual machine, which means you can have that cross compatibility with stuff that's happening on Ethereum, where I feel like Codius is a much larger animal. What it's trying to do, it's trying to go beyond what we already know and have that interoperability between fiat, between let's say digital assets and the like itself. So let's see. There was actually a pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and play this. It wasn't good. I'm gonna load up this video, but back in when was this? This is February of 2022. February of 2022. Let's see. Here it is. Stefan Tomas, and we also had David Schwartz talking about this. This was at Apex. They were discussing Codius and ILP. This was February of 2022. Here we go. Let's listen to this.
Some of you might have heard of the Codius project, and I think, whenever Interledger is well enough established that you can actually, pay for things really easily using Interledger, I think that'll enable a different kind of smart contracts platform, whether it's Codius or someone else's idea that goes in a similar direction. And so then that type of platform has no issues making Interledger payments. It also has no issues integrating with legacy systems. It has no issues integrating with the weather API to check what the weather forecast is. It doesn't need any oracles. It's just a lot more straightforward way to build these things.
Oh, I totally agree. It's just nobody really knows how. We sort of know how to build something like that. It's just a lot of work and
yeah. I mean, we started building it and then realized like, okay, well now we need to find a way to pay these contracting nodes, and it's like, well, shoot.
Yeah, I realized. I can build this thing, but I have to do 10 years of work before I can use it. So let's start on that.
It's also interesting because this was when we first started trying to build Codius. a lot of this stuff around containerization and serverless and all this infrastructure, Kubernetes didn't exist, like all this stuff didn't exist.
Right.
And so nowadays, like suddenly there's all these tools that make it easier. And so if we wait another year or two, like there's going to be even more tools to make it super easy.
They were very primitive. They were just not robust enough for, to handle large amounts of dollars.
Exactly.
Like,
and
you don't want to make the mistake that many people made, putting billions of dollars on brand new, untested, you know.
Yeah, it's sort of like you're trying to build a car, and then you realize no one's selling wheels yet, so you got to first invent a wheel, and then you realize no one's selling engines yet, so you got to first invent an engine, and it's just not a good way to spend your time, frankly. And so I think that, you know, where we ended up is like, you know, what is the most useful primitive that would enable Codius and a lot of other things, and that ended up being IntelliJ, and so it's like, you know, focus on one thing, and that's what we're focusing on.
So having been in...
There you go. There you have it right there. This is interesting because why don't we do this? Why don't we have, I mean, here's a novel concept. Why don't we get Stefan Tomas, you know, I don't know what he's up to right now, but why don't we have him building Codius? Or is he building Codius? Interesting. Are they going to revive that Codius project? I don't know. But it seems to me like that might not be a bad thing for him to be working on right now. I think it'd be a fantastic thing for him to do. I want to pull this up. Man, has there been so much controversy around this? My gosh. Let's see. Let's pull this up. And you know, not only with myself, but there's a lot of people on Crypto X, I should call it now. It's not Twitter anymore, but Crypto X. There's a lot of stuff going on around there. But I put this up, controversial, and here it is. Warren Davidson put this tweet out, and he said, you know, I'll admit surprise that some Twitter active, I should say X active, XRP holders are so hyper defensive of Ripple's work on central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. I answered a question about the Torres decision by pointing out that XRP was finally recognized as not a security, but that some of Ripple's activity was deemed an investment contract by the judge, because in pitches to institutional investors, Ripple promised to do X, Y, and Z. Fairly accurate. I added that my concern was about Ripple's involvement in developing CBDCs, because we were talking about Ripple, and that is one component of Ripple's pitch. Yeah, when he says Ripple's pitch, I don't like the word about pitch, but what he's basically saying here is that's just one of the things that Ripple does, right? I mean, Ripple is famous for their software that can handle cross-border transactions is really what they do, right? So, but he's basically saying like one aspect of it, they're also building CBDCs, and that's one part of their pitch. He did come clean about the fact that, and this was in a Twitter space, and man, did everybody freak out about this. It was like crazy. And then here we have, so he says, now given that I'm working to criminalize CBDC, rational people would understand I don't want anyone to work on CBDC, not Satoshi, not Consensus, not the Fed, not even my mom. So if you're a Twitter active XRP holder, do you like XRP because of Ripple's work on CBDC, in spite of Ripple's work on CBDC, or don't care about Ripple either way? And here it is right here. Here is the here's the results of the poll. And so did you care because of Ripple's CBDC work? That was about 19%. In spite of the CBDC work Ripple's been doing, 28%, but the majority, 53%, they didn't care. And that kind of makes sense to me, because most people don't care about anything. People didn't care about a lot of things until, see, the thing about caring about stuff, just me going on a little rant here, but this is how people care. When you care about stuff, here's how it works. You go like, well, I know there's people that are dying in other countries, and that's just too bad. And gosh, I hope it gets better for them. I sure hope it gets better for them. But if it doesn't, that's okay. But then it like happens in your country, and you're like, well, that's pretty rough. I hope that violence doesn't make it to my city. And then it happens in your street, and you're like, whoa, now I have to care about it. So the level of care is kind of an interesting thing about who cares about it, why they should care about it. Let me get this off screen for a second. This is making me stutter all over the place here. Oh, the joys of streaming, it's fantastic. And I know people will say, oh, Chip, it's your computer. I'm completely frozen now, but what are you going to do? And it's not. It's the streaming software that goes buggy every once in a while. But I think that You know, I caught a lot of flack for it too, because people are like, well, it's a tool. A CBDC can be used for good, or it can be used for evil. You know, it could be used. Guns can be used to protect people. They can be used not to. I mean, you can have this rule, but to me, my big thing with CBDCs, the whole idea that I don't like about it is, first of all, I am not a fan of the Federal Reserve. I'm not a fan of any central bank. I don't care what new currency you want to create. I don't care what you want to call it. I don't trust you. End of story. That's it. I don't care. End of list. I don't trust it. People like Warren Davidson in Congress, there's not going to be, as far as the House is controlled by the red team, there's not going to be a CBDC. It has to be mandated by Congress. But I have to go back to what the original intention of what the founders wanted. You go back to an Andrew Jackson in the 1830s who said they would wipe what do you call them, like vermin or scoundrels or the evil off the face of the earth. And he did. He shut down the charter after 20 years of a centralized bank. The U.S., no country was intended to have a centralized money system. There's no sovereign currency. If you don't have a sovereign currency that is, like, for example, Congress can go ahead and has the ability to create a currency. Great, let Congress do that. That's not what the Federal Reserve is. The Federal Reserve is a third party, unaudited, nobody knows what's going on. That's a system built on debt. You take $1 out, then you have to take the next dollar because you got to pay interest on the first dollar, right? It's surprising that it's lasted over 100 years. It's even worse, well, since it went off the gold, backing from 1971 when President Nixon removed that. But my big thing here is, like, people are like, well, CBDCs, and should they make it? And there shouldn't be any controls on it. Matt Hamilton pointed out in one of the, I think it was one of my tweets, that there's no programmability built into, the XRP ledger. I don't know how. To me, I'm against the CBDC because of the first word, decentralized. I'm against it because it's going to be used by central banks. Not a fan of central banks. And if you want to know somebody who's doing this right, you just have to look to El Salvador and Bukele, who's doing it right. He said, screw you guys, screw the World Bank. He asked the World Bank to help, and they said, no way. It's like a shakedown cartel, right? He asked a couple other organizations, which I won't remember, to help him out. I said, no. He said, screw you. I'll do it myself. And that's when he went ahead and they said, okay, Bitcoin is legal tender. And again, guess what? They were pushing for El Salvador to fail. And what did he do? He's thriving. 2 years later, still thriving. He's got volcano energy. They're mining Bitcoin. This right here, this whole decentralization, I don't care what your feelings are about Bitcoin, but the whole idea of the decentralization here is phenomenal, right? And this is the first country that's showing how it's done. They use U.S. dollars, correct? I understand they still, but the way to get away from that, are they completely decentralized or not? But again, it's showing you a glimpse of what it could look like. Ultimately, what I think is going to happen in the next couple of years, the Federal Reserve will get audited. It will get shut down because it's a system built on debt. It doesn't benefit. All it does is enslave people. And if you don't know, if you want to know why everything's burning up, and I'm not talking about the wildfires, I'm talking why the economy is going down, down, down. You can't raise rates to 7-8%, lock first-time home buyers out of the ability to go out there and purchase and say it's for the greater good. It's not. All it does is protect institutional investors, right? Protects their money. That's about it. Doesn't do anything for you. Doesn't do anything for the non-institutional investor. All it does, it doesn't make money cheaper. And all of a sudden the Fed's panicking a little bit, saying, maybe, will they reduce the rate? If they only brought it down to 5.43%, I think the economy would start turning around. So I never bought all this garbage about what the raising interest rates. If you remember, famously, Kennedy in one of the hearings had on record the Fed chair say that, basically what happens when you raise the rate is we lose jobs, right? That's happened every time that's happened. It's like, that's one of the unfortunate happenings with raising the rate. And then Kennedy basically went through every bad thing that happens when you raise the rates. And guess what happened? It doesn't benefit anybody. It benefits institutional, and that's about it. That's debatable on itself. And I'm against central banks. I'm against central banks' digital currencies. I don't think putting anything in the government's hand because is going to be a good thing. That's just my stance. There you go. Jim D says, what I care about is Ripple's world-class relational network. They are on all key committees and know everyone on the planet. That's a good point. They do know everybody. What else do we say here? Jim D, we can live with CBDCs if we can force legislation to make code public for inspection. I don't even want that, man. I'll be honest with you. I don't even want that. Why would I be a proponent for something? It's kind of like we have a crappy system now. The centralized bank thing doesn't work. It's dangerous. It's debt ridden. It makes slaves out of everybody. But sure, let's inspect the code and let's make sure that it's a good thing. I don't like it. That's me personally. You know, people say, you could say like, oh, I stand with Warren Davidson. Listen, I'm just not a fan of it, period. But I'm not a fan of the Fed. That's it. I think the Fed needs to be shut down. I think we need to have a sovereign currency. I think it could be blockchain. And then we can start talking about what that looks like. But we don't want a third party running it. We'd rather have the actual debatable should be the government. But I'm saying we don't need a third party that we don't know what's going on. That I'm a little bit sort of dicey on there. Matt, 59754, thank you for that. He says the programmability of the CBDC would only be good as the country's new Bill of Rights for the people. We need to beta test stable coins first, though, in my opinion. That's a good point right there. But if you don't have a Bill of Rights, should you proceed with a CBDC? I don't know that you should. But I guess I would be for an Internet Bill of Rights, a Bill of Rights. But again, let's look at how it's gone off in the U.S. here alone. Let's see how it's gone off the tracks, right? The founders never wanted a central bank, right? We got rid of it twice in history. Andrew Jackson was the last one that got rid of it. This one has been around forever and a day. It's a cabal. It needs to be broken up. It needs to be put to death. That's it. We need to get rid of the Federal Reserve. That's it. That's just my take on it. But I don't care what country you live in. I feel the same for you. Like, you want a sovereign currency. You don't want a third party. How about you're living in Europe and you got to listen to Christine Lagarde toll on for hours about how they're going to do this and do that. It's like, where's the freedom in that? Every country's got, the European Central Bank has so much pull. Nah, sorry. Not for me. Not for me at all. That's just my stance. You guys may disagree with it. I get it. A lot of people on the internet disagree with it, like, shit, but it could be used for good. I'm like, it could, but I'm against the whole idea of central banks. So could there be something implemented? Yeah, I'd be open to some sort of a digital interoperable currency, but I just don't think we're there, and I think we've got to do the right thing until we get there. What else do we have here? Got a little bit of time left here. Let's see if I can put this up here. David Schwartz recently put out a poll saying, hey, what would you like to see more of from me? And I remember saying jokes. I wanted to see more jokes because his sense of humor is fantastic. He put out a ton of them. I'm going to go ahead and share just one of the ones that, actually, there was another one too that I wanted to share, but I didn't grab it. But here it is. Here's one of them right here. This one is here. He says, if I won $10 million in the lottery, I would donate a quarter of it to charity. But what would I do with the other 9,999,999.75? That made me laugh. That's pretty funny. Get it a quarter? It was just a quarter, which is a quarter of a dollar. He didn't mean a quarter of the $10 million. I thought that was pretty funny. And this one here, we have this one here. AI facial recognition needs a little bit of work. Somebody's showing up at the door. And who does it have? Well, looks like a Klingon on the shirt there. It's like, that's off the Nest doorbell, I guess. Probably not his, but I'm just saying. That's who they thought the person was right there. So there you go. And let me see. And there was one other thing that I wanted to show before we get out of here. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Coinbase. This is a pretty cool announcement here. And then I wanted to, do I have this story? Let me see if I have this story. Yeah, there's a couple other things that I wanted to get to, but I wanted to get to this. This is what I was looking to try to pull up here. But I think this Coinbase thing just goes another thing in the SEC's face. It tells them what losers they are. When you actually legitimately have a form, you can go in and register. That's what you do. When you don't have a form to register, then that's what you have. So, second, I'm trying to pull this up. And let's see, what do we have here? All right. There we go. Coinbase put this tweet out. The National Futures Association, a CFTC designated SRO, has approved Coinbase Financial Markets as a registered futures commission merchant. Coinbase can now offer futures contracts in Bitcoin and ETH to eligible customers in the US. And I would imagine at some point they would open that up, but that's pretty fantastic. It's a significant milestone for bringing federal regulatory oversight over the crypto markets that protects consumers and helps ensure the US remain a center for digital innovation. I was looking for Brian Armstrong's tweet. Where is Armstrong's tweet? Let me see if I can find it. There it is right here. There's this one right here. Another tip of the hat to the SEC and the nutters over there. And let's see here. And he also commented on this. What he said was, a major moment for crypto regulatory clarity in the US. This has been a multi-year process towards approval, and we're excited to finally be launching federally regulated crypto derivatives with margin to our US customers. When there is a clear path to register, we do. Who do you think that's geared towards? Of course, none other than our pal, Gary Daddy G Gensler. I love this right here. This is a kick in the nads right there. When there is a clear path to register, we do. Then there was this. Let's put this up here. I saw this by Oskar. Oskar, who's in the chat, I believe, but he said, who's done some amazing animations, the Bill Hillman animation, famous, right? He said yesterday, he said yesterday I fell asleep while sitting down, holding my phone, and when I came to, I accidentally pressed someone's tweet and then a link from one of the crypto scam reply bots. This is how they get you. Can't fall asleep. XRP Army. This one made me laugh so hard, but and then you are all my children now, right? That's how they get you. Don't fall asleep. Don't actually, fat finger something. And this one made me laugh too. So you had John Deaton's Crypto Law. I said, do we have to tie you to a tree like Jim in season 1 of The Walking Dead? And if you guys don't know, I'm a huge fan of The Walking Dead universe, everything Walking Dead. Actually, my favorite YouTubers are Walking Dead YouTubers. And should I have been a Walking Dead YouTuber? Maybe. But anyway, if you guys are a fan of that made me laugh, like tied to a tree, season 1, The Walking Dead. And then we had Oskar say, well, I hope it'll be enough. Otherwise, before you know it, Oskar Coin will be trending in all the government accounts. I have no control over any of this. So that's some pretty fun stuff right there, man. Anyway, thank you. Appreciate that comic humor. That was some good stuff. There's a couple more pieces, but I think it's just good that we go ahead and end it now. I want to go and see what we have in here. Right there, we have WF Patsy. Humor and intelligence are directly correlated. Absolutely. Jim D, the real reason the government, SEC, Fed do not want stable coins, they can't control their exchange value with derivatives and might perform better than national securities. Bing, 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 spot on, hit it, directly over the target, Jim D. Well said. And also he said, Gensler should just be honest and print out his under the table fee structure to purchase SEC registration, because you can't go on the website and get it, as we all know, right? Oskar says it's a true story. I was like, is this a true story? Because I can get the fact that, I've done that where I've been half asleep and I wake up and I'm like, oh no, I'm like typing gibberish in a tweet or whatever. But I don't know if it's a true story, but that can happen, man. All kinds of weird stuff. Do not fall asleep. Take the phone out of your hand, hands away from the keyboard. This is how you do it. That's the only way to do it. And then Oskar says, yeah, appreciate you, Chip. No, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate every single one of you. Why? Because you're awesome. Because you come in here. Because you're the thinkers. You don't get hung up on FUD. Oh, sure, X is now helping people monetize. So what do you see? The craziest, zaniest, dumbest headlines out there. Booms and explosions and Ripple's partnered with Amazon. A story from 3 years ago, and everybody's talking about it. It's just, it would be safe out there. It's crazy out there. The idea of monetizing was great. I looked to see if I could monetize. It's like, you don't have enough impressions. So I got to start tweeting some more crazy headlines. I got to start tweeting some more FUD. I got to start doing some more stuff that's saying that Ripple's going to be the reserve currency. Ripple's going to be the new BRICS reserve currency. I mean, you name it. It's all out there. It's insane. But I absolutely, there you go. Go ahead and smash that like, guys. Before we get out of here, smash it right now. What are you doing? Just click the like. Come on. I don't know how many. Hans, give me an idea how many. Boom. Well, there you go. Boom. How many likes do we have? How many likes do we have? We had a low showing tonight. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it wasn't exciting talking about technology. Got to have more FUD headlines. You guys laughed at the FUD headlines. When we do them, they work. We get people in here. If you do something like sensible, nobody cares. It's just the way it works. And you can get hundreds of thousands of subscribers that, I don't know if they return or not, but you get hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Otherwise, you can have 26,000 and slowly lose and lose until you lose. You're down under 26,000 like us. So that's how it happens. That's exactly how it works. You only have 53. Come on, man. 53 out of 54, not bad. And then you're the best. Boom, shaka-laka-laka, boom. Nice. I got 56 in there. Yeah, it's low showing, but that's it. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. Let's see. When will we be back? Back on Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Be there with your coffee. And did I mention it all? This was sponsored. I wait now because I was like, Chip, no one. But Badass YETIS coffee. This is the Noir Symphony whole bean coffee right there. Also have a bag. These are my props to show, and I never show them. We're not very good at this, apparently. And then this one here is the Badass YETIS Obsidian Bold, which is a really big flavor. And if you want to know if the coffee's any good, no, it's effing great. And if you want to know that, Mike, please tell him in the comments. Mike has been buying coffee like it's going out of season. I know we're still working on international. We had a little bit of a trip up in that. We will have international shipping pretty soon. Honestly, if you guys like coffee, this is the best coffee. Why? Because we brew it to order. That's right. We brew it to order. So when an order comes in, it's basically, I'm going to say brew. What am I saying? Brewed to order. It is made to order, right? It's fresh beans. Freshly roasted beans go out the next day in shipping. So not brewed to order. That would be a barista inside of a coffee shop. It is roasted to order. I don't know. I'm tired. It's been a long day, long week. I'm getting out of here. I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you for being the best and brightest and always coming here, giving your opinion. Let me know in the comments what you agreed with, what you didn't agree with. If you don't like my stance on CBDCs, that's cool. I want to hear from you guys. Make it known in the comments. That's all I got to say. And I am out of here. Chip out.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.